All right, so I am working on a top down for a Sunset Overdrive level or district POI area within the map of Sunset Overdrive. I'm going to give a little brief rundown of kind of where I'm at and the plan and kind of just overall overview of what's happening and what I'm thinking. So just kind of to preface, I have not played Sunset Overdrive in a long time. So some of this stuff is going off a very fuzzy memory with the game. So there may be some things that kind of don't make sense from the original game. There may be some discrepancies with that, but I'm going to try my best to remember exactly how the game was played and what the game was about and such. So quickly, I'm currently doing a top down for the POI, and I'll go into the pitch deck as well once I get done with this. So one of my major gripes with the game was that it didn't really have too many unique POIs or districts. I don't know what they called them within the map. It's essentially the same thing. Districts, POI. They're kind of, they all have like similarities and overlap. So I'll just say district. So there weren't too many, as far as I remember, where there was unique districts within the map that kind of set the bounds of that area. So for example, a lot of the buildings were very generic and urban. You had your apartments, your tall buildings, your skyscrapers and such. You didn't really have anything unique or to a specific zone. So for example, what I'm currently doing is making a tech, it's called Tech Land. All that will be polished. I'll kind of brief on all that at the end of the video here. So this is going to be like high tech and very like, I don't want to say futuristic, but still kind of fits the theme of the game, not super exaggerated shapes. Still kind of the supporting buildings are going to stay somewhat generic. All right, my camera decided to die. So the supporting buildings are going to stay somewhat generic, but still have that architecture of it being more techy to kind of support this district, so it makes more sense. And that's kind of what I was getting at earlier, is like having a set dressed skin for specific building, like building kits that resembled that district or that POI or that zone. For example, you can have a urban area, you can have a slums area, you can have a high-tech area, and so on. It's pretty standard. And I may be wrong about that. They may have that. I just, like I said, I can't remember. It's been a long time since I played, and I watched a little quick video, but I didn't want to spend too much time on this, so I didn't do tons and tons of research on this. I'm just kind of going off memory. This is a fun project, something fun to do and to make some content for here on YouTube. So I already kind of have a mental note what I want and what I want to achieve, what I'll need and such while doing the top down, and the type of gameplay visuals that I want within the game. Sometimes in my top downs, I like to add unnecessary details like trees and such. It's not really unnecessary because it does serve a purpose for me in the top down. I'm kind of visualizing the composition. So that's kind of touching on another point with the game too, is a lot of the buildings just kind of blended together. They were just square and for obvious reasons. They had some cool shapes. I really like how the game does not take it too seriously. I can go on about what I like about the game and all that because I really like it. It takes me back to my childhood where the game doesn't take itself too serious and everything's like combed over with a fine-tooth comb, and it's just about the gameplay and it's just about fun. I mean, there's things that I would improve on if was given the opportunity and such, but the game was just still fun. This is my third time recording this. There's going to be no camera because it kept messing up the recording. So I'm going to try to quickly go over this a lot quicker than my previous two recordings. Anyways, this is the top down. And I just want to preface too with this. There's a lot of loose ends with this pitch deck. There's a lot of unanswered questions, but it is a start and a good foundation to start on. And once I get into editor, those questions will be answered. I don't want to have everything answered within this pitch deck because those answers may be wrong. I don't like to have like a super strict guidelines when jumping in. I like to have a starting point, and then once I get into the editor and start filling everything out, make changes and adjustments as needed. In my opinion, that works better for me, and it's the best because there's no better answer than actual hard truth and hard, playtime. So with that being said, this is the top down for Techland District. The central building here is the meat and potatoes of this district. It's the high tech, the advanced tech building. It's going to be the unique silhouetted building. And then you're going to have the supporting buildings that are still that still make sense within this district, where they're more tech and not urban and tall buildings and such like all the other POIs within the map. But they're going to be generic in the sense not over competing with the main central building. So before starting on the top down, I had some baseline notes and such that I wanted to make sure that I hit, which I'll go into the gameplay overview once we get to that slide. That's generally how I start with my top downs. I have a idea of what I want to happen within the POI, especially this framing, this composition. There's not too many good composition POIs within the map that I can remember. Again, haven't played in so long, so I could be wrong. But I really wanted this main POI to stand out and have a really strong composition and scream that this is important. This is the important building. So I just kind of started with that in mind. Like I said, I also like to do a lot of the art stuff as well, like the road networks and such. From my experience, designers who can also design with the restrictions of like the art and like what's expected on the art side work out so much better and get their stuff approved a lot easier, because when you leave up a lot of speculation and a lot of unanswered questions on the art side or any other department, which generally the art, that's the bottleneck with maps. So if you can get art on your side, then it's really good, because you're going to have support from design, obviously, hopefully. And so when you can get support from the art side as well, and you have a lot of like questions unanswered and stuff, it's good. And not even just from like a political perspective, but more so it helps with the production. Like you a lot of times there'll be less interviews, less back and forth if you have things kind of already laid out. Of course, it's not going to go exactly the way you think it's going to go, but it's going to be a lot less friction and a lot less, hey, can I change this? Hey, can this be changed? Hey, and everybody goes into it with a good game plan. So I also like to do that as well. And you don't want to get, into the fine details of like street lines like I did down here and such, because the thing about Sunset Overdrive, and I could be wrong, but just from my experience and just from looking at the game, I can kind of make an educated guess that designers had a lot of freedom in terms of like not needing to make sense with that type of stuff, because it's just more gameplay centric. It's more about the gameplay, and it's not like super realistic or anything like that. It's believable, not realistic. I always tell people there's a difference between the two. I much prefer to design for believability than realism, because believability, you just need to make it you need to make the player think that what they see is could be real or is real. Maybe they have the mindset that it is real, and that just kind of helps blends the experience with art, design, and everything else, and it makes things a lot smoother. Anyways, enough with that. I'll go over the other stuff in just a second here. So we'll go with the narrative overview. Techland District is controlled by a sophisticated group of scabs who are developing a new cyber-driven OD. The player's objective is to infiltrate the district and interrupt the operations before the project can be completed. So again, I don't know exactly all the lore of the game. The scabs are like the humans that aren't mutated yet, and they are the ones that are creating the energy drink that is mutating the people, if I'm not mistaken. So I kind of went with this idea that there's a boss or a high-tech nerd scab that is trying to advance the mutation or make a more powerful mutation other than the humans. Kind of like what we're seeing today with AI. But yeah, so I kind of went with that idea, that fiction. I kind of like the narrative, and you can make a more interesting layout with shapes and such, it being a more like high-tech district and such. And there could be I could do tons of other things again with this, like new gameplay things. Maybe there's drones and such, but again, wanted to keep this simple and doable within 2 weeks of actual dev time. So it's not super sophisticated in the sense of like what you do in the mission and such, but it's a fun exercise. So the gameplay overview, again, a lot of loose ends. I'll figure this stuff out as I go, but I got a good starting point. Fast-paced parkour-driven movement, which is obvious for this game. Dense pocketed buildings, kill zones to eliminate ODs, verticality, building to building. So a lot of that stuff is like core to what Sunset Overdrive is. So obviously wanted to keep those, and going to do it in a different way as well. So the mission itself is definitely on the weaker side in terms of what you're actually doing. Again, because I didn't want to spend too much time on this. So essentially what you're doing, and narratively I got to polish this up and make it better. You go into these zones and kill X amount of ODs, and it will power off the main building. So there's got to be something narratively with that. I don't know, maybe there's some kind of device that you have to go and collect the goo that explodes from the ODs, the mutated enemies. And once you collect enough of that goo, you can power off certain devices around the area here. So that's kind of the thought process, but again, it definitely has a lot of loose ends to fix. But we're going to go to the next one. So with this, like I said, I like to keep track of things that I will need to do, and I do have a list like prioritized in my head of what I'll need in terms of like how much effort that it will take, how much time it'll take, is it important to the map. So a lot of the stuff that's important is like the jump pads, the grind rails, the shooting, and such. But anyways, we'll give a quick rundown. Jump pads, I'll create a component class for this, because if you remember in Sunset Overdrive, the whole idea is cars are jumpable, awnings are jumpable, vent systems are jumpable, umbrellas are jumpable. There's tons of actors that you could just jump off of that act like a trampoline. So keeping this modular to where I could just create a component and add it to any actor within the map will be a time saver, so I don't have to make specific actors for the jump pad. So I could just block it out and attach a component to said actors, which will be a time saver. So block out vehicles, buses, cars, trucks, block out trees, grind rails. Grind rails is another one, like I said, that is needed. I want to make sure that this feels good, and the movement is like the core of this, so I need to make sure that I can at least get a bare bones of that. Shooting, I want to get some interaction with enemies, even if it looks pretty jank. It's going to be simple to set up. Now, how much I can get, polished and looking decent is another story. A base AI, the AI in the game isn't that sophisticated or that complex, so that's good. They have 3 that I know of. There might be more. They have the ODs that just run at you in melee attack. They have the bombers that run at you and explode. Those 2 are fairly easy to implement, so they're not going to... Now, when I say that they're not too complex, I don't mean from a design like what they do perspective. Now, the navigation where they are able to jump from nav mesh to nav mesh and I can't remember if they can use the grind rails. That's going to be way too complex, and I'm not going to do that. So it's just going to be a base, AI of what they do in the game. Objective scripting, mission progression scripting, damage health system. Again, same concept as the jump pads. I want to make a component, that way I can create my player class, implement the component on the player class. I can create a base AI class, implement that component onto that class, and then that way when I create a child class of the base AI class, it'll inherit that component and automatically have the health and all that functionality done, where they do whatever once they reach 0 health or whatever. UI kill zones, UI to display killed amount of UI, and that's basically for the objective. So when you get to those zones that you have to collect the goo or whatever, I'll want some kind of display or some kind of messaging that you're progressing. So you're not just feeling that you're just sitting there killing endless of ODs. And then also I'll need some kind of spawn system. I don't have that listed here, but I'll need some kind of spawn system that works around the player and near the player once they arrive in these zones. And that should be fairly simple, but some kind of spawn system, like I said. Other than that, that is pretty much it. This is going to be a series, like I said. I can't remember if I said, because I've recorded this 3 times and I can't remember what I've said or what's going to actually make the video now. But this is going to be a series. This is part 1. This is just the pre-production, the planning and such. Part 2, which is next after this video sometime, it's going to be me implementing the gameplay. So the jump pads, the character movement, and all that stuff before doing the level design. Because what I don't want to do is do level design and then go back and do the gameplay, and then there's a bunch of issues that arise, like the pacing feels bad, the metrics are off, and the combat's weird. So you always want to start with a foundation of what the gameplay is, and then you can implement, then you can do your level design. You never want to do the level design and then understand what the gameplay is. You gotta know what the gameplay is before doing the level design. So that's the level, the block out and level implementation of the gameplay stuff is going to be the last video that I can think of. That's what I'm thinking right now. 3-part series. So that's going to be the end of the video. If you have any feedback, comments, questions, anything of that nature, anything you'd like me to speak on next video, just let me know, and see you on the next one.